Mr. President, thank you for the floor. Members of the Council, first of all, I would like to note that for the first time in our meetings, Rwanda did extend condolences for the fallen peacekeepers. However, I would like to rectify something. The peacekeepers did not die in a process. The peacekeepers were killed. Second of all, SADC forces deployment through SAMI DRC were not deployed unilaterally by the DRC, but rather with a mandate from the AU, an organization Rwanda is a part of, even if its behavior in the DRC clearly flaunts its principles. Third, the M23 excluded itself from the Nairobi process by renewing attacks against the FARDC. The government of the DRC has nonetheless expressed its willingness to re-include the M23 in the Nairobi process. We reject Rwanda's obsession and attempts to elevate the M23 to the level of an interlocutor deemed fit to sit at the same table as a legitimate government. 30 years down the line, we have never stooped to the level of expecting and demanding from Rwanda to talk to its brothers and sisters, the FDLR, who are still in our country. We have not stooped to that level. Fourth, on regime change, we will remind the Rwandan delegation that the M23 and the AFC has repeatedly expressed its intent to march in Kinshasa. The very M23 Rwanda forces are backing right now. There is a subtlety that should not go amiss between words and actions. Rwanda's actions, side by side with the M23, are actions seeking to overthrow a legitimately established government. On the Luanda and Nairobi processes, we will remind the Rwandan representative that the DRC never left the negotiating table. It was Rwanda that did not show up on the 15th. It was Rwanda that did not come when President Lorenzo invited us. And President Kenyatta was also present. President Tshisekedi honored his commitment. In the past weeks, we have seen efforts, calls from this council, from our partners, from our friends, urging us all to renew our efforts within the Luanda process. The DRC never left the table. It is up to Rwanda to come back to the table. I would also like to remind the Council that in this very session, the government of the DRC, through my own statement, condemned all attacks against diplomatic missions in the DRC. We do this in our concern to abide by and respect international law. However, we have yet to hear Rwanda explain to us what its efforts have been to abide by international law and to respond to the violations it has been found guilty of in the DRC. Violations of the Charter, violations of international humanitarian law, violations of international human rights law. Members of the Council, I would like to close with what has brought us back here in less than 48 hours. Rwanda's outright contempt for this Council and its declaration that it will not, for the Council and the Council's declaration, and its demonstration that it is in the deluded belief that there is a Rwandan exception when it comes to international law. But what has also brought us here is the Council's choice 2 days ago to opt for words and not for actions. This Council is not unable to take actions. In fact, it is uniquely equipped to take actions. Hence, the question that remains at the end of this meeting is whether this Council is unwilling to act. Thank you.
I thank Her Excellency Ms. Kayishema Wagner for her statement. And I now give the floor to the representative of the Russian Federation.
Господин председатель,
Mr. President,
благодарим
we'd
заместителя
like to thank the
спецпредставителя
Deputy
Генерального
Special
секретаря
Representative of the
Вивиан
Secretary General,
Ван де Пер
Vivian
за
van der Peer, for her briefing.
Приветствуем
We
участие в заседании
welcome
министра
to
иностранных
the
дел
meeting the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Teresa
представителей
Vanga, and the
остальных стран,
representative of
запросившихся
the
по правилам
other
37.
countries who've requested the floor under Rule 37.
Уважаемые коллеги, 2
Distinguished
дня назад
colleagues,
мы
2
встречались в
days
этом
ago
зале
we met in
и
this chamber
обсуждали
and discussed
тревожное
the
развитие
worrisome
ситуации на востоке
developments in
этой
the
страны.
situation in the Eastern
Последние
DRC.
48
Over the
часов она
past 48
стремительно
hours,
деградировала,
the
особенно в
situation has
связи с
significantly
захватом Гомы,
deteriorated,
где
especially with the
находится
seizure
свыше
of
миллиона
Goma,
гражданских.
where there are more than 1 million civilians
Россия
located.
решительно
Russia
осуждает
firmly
действия
condemns the
группировки
actions
M23.
of M23.
Мы призываем к
We call
немедленной
for
остановке
a swift cessation
боестолкновений
of
и выводу
hostilities
бойцов этого
and a
незаконного
withdrawal of
вооруженного
the
формирования
rebels of the illegal
из
armed
захваченных
formation
населенных
from
пунктов и
the
занятых
towns,
территорий.
villages and territory they've seized.
Мы также
We
призываем
also
внешние силы
urge
прекратить
external
поддержку
forces to
M23
cease their
и
support for
отозвать свои
M23
воинские подразделения.
and to recall their military
Необходимо без
units.
промедления
There's a need without delay
возобновить
to resume the
переговорный процесс в
negotiation
Луанде.
process in Luanda.
Нельзя допускать
We
разрастания
must not
эскалации,
allow a
создающей угрозу жизни
spillover of the
людей
escalation
по
which
обе
could
стороны
threaten the
границы
lives of
и
people on
чревато
both sides of the border and
межгосударственного
is
конфликта
likely
регионального масштаба.
to turn into an interstate conflict on a regional scale.
Мы глубоко
We
озабочены
are seriously
гуманитарными
concerned by the
последствиями происходящего.
humanitarian repercussions of what's
На
going
наших с
on.
вами глазах и без
In
того
front
тяжелая
of our
ситуация
very
в Северном
eyes,
Киеве
the
превращается в
already difficult
настоящую
situation in
гуманитарную
North
катастрофу.
Kivu is turning into an utter
Гома
humanitarian
фактически
disaster.
отрезана от
Goma
внешнего
de
мира,
facto is cut off
что
from the
может
outside
привести к
world.
тяжелейшим
This may have
последствиям для
serious
жителей города
consequences for the
и бежавших
inhabitants
туда
of the
внутренне
town and the
перемещенных.
IDPs who have fled there.
Вновь
Once
выражаем
again, we would
соболезнования
like to
семьям
express our
погибших
condolences to the
граждан
families
ДРК,
of the
миротворцев
civilian
ООН
victims
и
of the
павших бойцов
DRC,
сообщества
the UN
Лонды и Египта.
peacekeepers, and the fallen
Мы
SADC
солидарны с
soldiers.
правительством
We
ДРК,
stand in
государств,
solidarity
потерявших
with
своих
the governments of the
военнослужащих.
DRC and those
Желаем
states who've
скорейшего
lost their
выздоровления
service personnel.
Хотел бы
We
подчеркнуть, что Россия
wish their
безоговорочно
speedy
осуждает
recovery.
нападение
We'd like to
миротворцев.
underscore that Russia
Это абсолютно
unequivocally condemns the
неприемлемо.
attacks on
Мы
peacekeepers. It's
твердо
absolutely
поддерживаем миссию
unacceptable.
ООН по
We
стабилизации в демократической
firmly
республике
support
Конго,
the
ее
UN
руководство и
peacekeeping mission
генеральное
in the stabilization mission in the
Мы
DRC,
также
its
осуждаем
leadership
любые
and the
нападения
Blue
или
Helmets. We
проявления
also
агрессии в отношении
condemn any
иностранных
attacks and acts of
дипломатических
aggression
представительств.
regarding
Такие
international
действия не
diplomatic
имеют ничего
representation.
общего с
Such
мирными
actions
демонстрациями.
have absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with peaceful demonstrations.
Призываем
We
Киншасу
urge
обеспечить
Kinshasa
защиту
to ensure the
зарубежных миссий
protection
и
of foreign
дипломатического
missions
персонала
and
в
diplomatic
соответствии с
staff,
Венской конвенцией
pursuant to
и
the Vienna
международным
Convention
обязательствам.
and its international
Насилие на
obligations.
востоке ДРК
The
необходимо
violence in eastern
остановить.
DRC needs to
Однако
stop.
военного
However,
пути
there's no
урегулирования
military
кризиса
path
не
to
существует.
resolve this crisis.
Совершенно
It is
очевидно, что это
absolutely clear
возможно
that this
только в
is only
результате
possible as a
политической
result of
договоренности.
political agreements.
Убеждены, что
We're convinced
луандийский
that the
процесс
Luanda
остается той
process
площадкой,
remains
где
the
эта
best
договоренность
forum
может быть достигнута.
where agreements can be reached.